Her story's turning into gold. She's taking her power back. Yeah, she's on the rise. Strength in her soul, fire in her eyes. Keeping God first, watch her dreams unfold. Her life's a diamond, breaking the mold. Oh, she's taking her power back. Yeah, she's taking her power back. Harmony.
Welcome back to 20 Minutes of Simple Notes from Rita. We are back with episode 2 with my guest, Tiffany Townsend, the author of Challenging the Spectrum. And this episode, we are going to talk about autism and the birth of Challenging the Spectrum. Welcome back to 20 Minutes on our second episode. So in this episode, we are still talking about your precious son, Jacory.
Yes.
And we know in the last episode, we talked about SUDEP.
Yes.
But in this episode, we want to talk about autism and what birthed this wonderful book that we actually have here.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me a little bit? I really wanted to ask last episode, but I want now to ask you this question. Can you tell me a little bit about your son, his character? What was he like?
My son character was funny.
Mm-hmm.
His Facebook job said that he was a Facebook comedian delivering memes to make people laugh. And so for someone on the autism spectrum, that's kind of almost impossible, because having autism, humor is something that you never really understand. Because of the way their mind works, everything is kind of black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, they really understand fiction. You know, everything is practical.
Yeah.
You know, for them. And so the fact that he became a quote unquote, Facebook comedian was good, but he was just a fun loving son. One of his hobbies was photography. He actually was in a car club, and he was in the Mopar, and Mopar, that's the Dodge, the Challengers, the Chargers, the Scat Packs, or all of the
those like kind of muscle cars.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was in a car club, and actually on our Facebook memories today, it was some years ago when he went to his senior prom, and so one of the pictures that I had put on Facebook back then is him helping his classmate tie his tie.
Oh.
And that was a sweet memory, and that's just who he was. That was just who he was.
He sounds like he was just outgoing and wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
And I'm glad that you actually mentioned, I wanted to ask you about his character, about him, his personality, to give people a glimpse of who he was.
Oh, yes.
But with autism, I know that there are so many people that have children that have autism. And sometimes I think people they misunderstand that children or people that may be autistic are still able to function.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They're actually, to me, so they're genuine, because I just said, they don't really understand the in between, so they're very practical. Someone with autism may tell you the truth all the time, whether you like it or not. But they're genuine people, and they're rule followers. Like I said, everything has to be, they love doing the same thing over and over again.
Like
so yes, they're routine, they're predictable, and so they actually make very good workers. And so they're not late, and they, everything when you tell them it is. I actually think they make the perfect drivers, because they actually obey all of the laws. And Jacory was like that in school. Whatever rules were put in place, he obeyed them, and anybody that didn't obey them, he didn't like that. They were talking in class today, Mom. Like, really? Okay. But the teacher knew that, so all of his teachers all through school always used him to help kind of quote unquote police the class, or keep them on time and make sure they got to lunch on time. And if they were going over, he would give them like their little 2-minute warning.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Oh, what age was he when you found out that he was autistic?
He actually was officially diagnosed at 3. I started noticing, and this is kind of a common trend, individuals having, their young kids, and they stopped talking all of a sudden. And so Jacory stopped talking.
So he started out talking.
He started
and then
out
just
talking and
stopped.
babbling, as a 1-year-old,
Yeah.
2-year-old, and then just silent. His whole personality seems like it changed. He kind of went mute. And that stuck out to me loud. And I talk about that in the book of how silence became loud. Like, hey, what's going on with my son? All of a sudden, he was a happy, bubbly, just life of the party, just
Yeah.
as a kid. And then all of a sudden he went mute. And so I started like, what's going on? And we thought that it was like ear infections. He had ear infections. So we thought that he just wasn't feeling good a lot. And so different things like that. And somewhere along the way, they mentioned to me, it was a resource center or a physical therapy place called Bach, which is in the county we stayed in. And I took him to a specialist and they said, we think he could have autism. Like, what is autism?
Mhm.
Again, I've never heard of that either. What is autism? And they actually started doing just physical therapy with him in the home, and trying to teach him how to speak and different things like that, speech therapy,
Yeah.
do his motor skills and things that I thought that he had championed, but kind of started to regress. He was crying a lot again, he had started crying, and that wasn't his personality as a baby.
Really.
Yeah, and so he was crying a lot, and a lot of that was sound sensory, and I knew nothing about sound sensory. I didn't know that the
They're
showers,
sensitive.
the
Yeah.
showers, the drops hitting the tub sounded like bombs going off in their ears. I had no clue of that type of things, and so things that he cried about, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't learn these things until years later. And so just different things that happen. And I talk about a lot of those
Yeah.
early signs in the book because I got things wrong just because I just didn't know. And again, you never want to diagnose your child with something that, it's like, oh, he must have autism. First of all, I don't know
What it is.
what it
really.
is.
Yeah.
I did not know in 1999 and 2000 that autism existed, and so I just had to learn a lot of those things on my own. And that's one of the things, when you talked about the birth of the book,
Yeah.
it was so important for me to want to inform others of the early signs that they could see in their children, because early intervention is that equals success.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know part of your title, it talks about faith and trusting that God has the final say.
Right.
So with this book, it was birthed through, of course, pain in your
Mhm.
own experiences. And I love that you are willing to share what you learned.
Yes.
Not
yes,
only on today, but you talk about it in your book.
Yes.
The things that they actually need to look for that could
Mhm.
actually help
help
them
them. Yes.
as they go and navigate. So with the spectrum, because we were talking about challenging the spectrum,
Mhm.
how do you see, what does challenging the spectrum look like?
Well, and first of all, a piece of the book there in the title, it says a real life guide.
Yeah.
And to me, that's so important because you have these experts, and I'm a person that believes experience matters. And so I like to tell parents, this is a real life guide. This is what was going on in our everyday life.
Yeah.
Like showering,
You lived it.
lived it. I'm showering my son. I'm washing dishes and he's on the floor, holding on to my legs, screaming and crying. And I'm not knowing that the water running
Oh.
is causing pain to him and his ears. So I give a lot of real life practicality of things that families are living every day in their home and signs that parents could miss. And so I outlined those. But when I say challenge in the spectrum, when my son was diagnosed and even at age 3, and as he started grade school, I was just given a list of all of the things he would never be able to do in life. And a lot of the conversations when we met with the educators and the specialists was all of the things that they would not be able to do. And for parents, that's a death. That's a death of a child that you had hopes and dreams for. When my son was born, they talked about his big hands, and it's like, this boy had big hands. He gonna play football or basketball, and it's just hopes and dreams that you have for your child, even when you're pregnant with them. And you have things in your mind, and as a parent, that accomplishments that you would love to see your child. And so when you're told these things, you go through a death of those things. And I talk about that in the book. But what can all of that produce? And we decided, and God had it, faith for me to challenge it. I didn't want to accept those things. And me as a child, and I tell my mom about it, and I apologize to her, I was rebellious. And I feel like now, as an adult and everything in hindsight, that I was born with a rebellious spirit because I was going to be the mother to that boy. And I was not meant to take
just everything that was spoken,
everything that was said. I was not meant to take it laying down. And I was meant to challenge. And that's what we did. We challenged. And they said no group sports. And I put him in baseball and football.
And how did he do?
In baseball, he was upset because he hit the ball finally, and he ran to third base instead of first base. He got out, and he was mad, and he said, I ain't coming back. And I'm like, fine with me. And football, because he was a big boy, they wanted him to hit and hit, and that wasn't him. But we decided to keep him in football. Of course, he had some friends that were playing, or I'm sorry, it wasn't a friend, it was his cousin. But we was like, and all else fails, it's a good exercise for him. And so we wanted to get him out of the house. And so we kept him in football so that he can exercise. They practiced 3 days a week, and they had their games. And this was teaching him how to be around people. Yeah. That's some of the things that the therapists were doing, and he was actually taught how to interact with people. He was taught how to talk on the phone. He was just taught a lot of things. And so we felt like the football was going to be another teacher for him. And it was. Wow. And we put him in band, and they said he won't like band because of the loud noise. And he hadn't got used to the loud noise from church. And he was a great percussion. And they said, well, he'll never learn to read music. And they were absolutely right. He didn't. But it was through memory. Because of his autism, he had photographic memory. And so all they did is played it once for him. And he got it. And he played everything on the percussion. And I got his medals and everything because he was great.
Awesome to hear. And I wanted to ask you about challenging the spectrum. And that's really profound what you said. You refused to accept what they were telling you, because had you accepted it, you wouldn't have experienced band.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have experienced playing basketball. Being a percussionist, and hearing you say how he used to hold on to you just from the sound of the shower drops. But then he was a percussionist. Yeah. So I'm glad you challenged it, and refusing to accept every diagnosis and power of life and death is yet in the tongue.
Yes, it is.
So your faith, you're an advocate for this. Yes. Also, trusting God has the final say.
Yes.
So with autism, I know that there are different, I guess they call it the spectrum, but there are different levels.
Yes.
Someone may be at a higher spectrum than they are with someone else. So it depends on where your child falls.
Yes,
and how
it depends on how your
child
child falls. Some individuals with autism, they remain nonverbal. Fortunate for us, Ja'Cory was taught how to speak, and although he went through a nonverbal phase, he ended up speaking. Some children, remain nonverbal, and so then it's hard for them to do, different things if they can't speak, and so it's different levels of the spectrum. But some of the parents I speak with, and I just was at an autism event, and I was talking to a lot of the kids transitioning from high school into the adulthood. And I was like, you want to drive? And he's like, yeah. And the parents said no. And I said that we have to let the kid lead us. And I talk about that in the book. And the independence. My son wanted to ride his bike to school in elementary. And I battled with that because he could ride the bus, and he was riding the bus. And they said, now, if you let him start riding the bike, you lose your bus privileges. And I was like, oh, man, he's safe on the bus. The bus picks him up right in front of the house and drops him off, but he want to ride his bike. What do I do here? And that was our first bout at independence for him. I did what he wanted to do. I let him ride his bike. And, me and Dad, we rode with him down to the school. I followed him in the car. We stopped at every stop sign. We put things in place so when the school year came, he could ride his bike. And he liked to get to school early. He wanted to be one of the first ones there so he can hurry up and eat and be there to greet his teacher when she get in the class. And the things that he learned then and the things he put in place with that independence, he was the first one at his job. He was there early. He, was there to help his boss. And so those things that were set in place as a young child, he did everything how he did everything.
Because he was at his job for what? What did you tell me?
He was almost there. He was almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Yeah, at the United States Postal Service.
Yeah.
He was a carrier.
And see, all of that prepared him for that.
All of that prepared him for that. Yeah.
That's awesome, Tiffany. I think you have done an excellent job with your story that you have shared in the last episode and in this episode, and your ability to navigate. Because that's exactly what I'm hearing is navigating, and then your determination not to give up on your child.
Yes.
On your child.
Yes.
And I want people to be able to, I know this book you can get it at Barnes & Noble, basically anywhere,
You
right?
can get it anywhere. Yeah. Amazon, Target, Walmart.
Too.
Yeah,
Right.
you can get it anywhere. But just to round out how, when I said that God had the final say and just the title, when I got up to speak at his memorial service and I looked out in the audience, that's when I knew his story was bigger than me. Because everything they said he couldn't do, it was people there at the service representing those things. It was his fellow bandmates, his people from the car club, the football team, the people he met. So his job, everything that they told me he would never be able to do, he was known for those things at the end of his life. And that's when I knew that my journey really now just started.
Yeah, and as you say here, honoring his life,
Sharing
our story.
Yes.
Yeah, and you're right. When you mentioned that this is a real life guide, it actually is. And you know what? I think it's more impactful when it's coming from people that have actually lived it.
Yes.
And seen it. How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
They can actually go to our website, challengingthespectrum.com. And then we have a Devoted Mama. I'm create a community, and it's called the Devoted Mama. And so devotedmama.lovable.app. Okay. So that's another community and podcast that I have for moms, and it's the Devoted Mama podcast. And now that I got my book out, that's just going to be a resource hub for resources for moms I'm going to be inviting moms on to tell your story, because your story helps someone else.
Right.
And usually what you're going through, there's usually 100 other women that's going through the same thing.
And they're able to ask questions as well within that hub if they have questions.
Yeah.
If you would leave a simple note from Rita today, or a simple note from Tiffany actually, on this particular subject, what would you tell the people? What would you encourage the moms or anyone that may be wondering if their child is autistic, or even if it's someone out there that's actually autistic and they happen to see the show? What would you tell them, if there's a nugget you want to leave them today?
My message is consistent when I say that moms, your job is sacred. Early intervention. If you think or suspect your child may have epilepsy or autism, take them to get checked out, get the diagnosis, and then you take it from there. Your job is sacred. And God has the final say. Not man, but God has a final say.
Right. So good to have you with me on today, Tiffany.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being transparent and sharing your story. And I pray your peace
honor.
and your continued advocacy success.
Mhm.
And I know that you're helping people. It's not, I think you will. I know that you are helping
Yeah.
people. I'm sure there are people that are watching today that may not know didn't know about autism or even SUDEP, because I wasn't. When I first met Tiffany, I had never heard the term.
Mhm.
So I'm so glad that she was able to come on with us today. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Can they reach out to you on social media as well?
Yep, they can reach out on social media. We have an Instagram at The Devoted Mama, and then also our email is hello@thedevotedmama.com.
Hello.
hello@thedevotedmama.com. Send me a message there on our email, and I personally respond.
Do you have resources to support groups?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And we're really focusing on church groups. This book is for advocates, ABAs, anyone that's, let's see, all shareholders of the child. So all stakeholders
Okay.
of the child. If you have your hand in anything involving to the child, you'll want to read this book.
Okay. Get the book, please. Get the book. Educate yourselves and be encouraged. Until next time, be blessed. Bye-bye.
Oh, she's taking up